July the 10th, 2025. Good evening to everyone. Hope everybody had an enjoyable 4th of July. If you will stand with me, we'll have a moment of silence. And if you would, okay. Everyone just remember the flood victims in Texas and those that are still struggling around here. I mean, it's almost been a year. And folks are still rebuilding and struggling with what happened here. So just remember them as we have a moment of silence. We have our pledge. Flag right there. Okay. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Brown? Here. Mr. Griever?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
And Mr. Long?
Here. Recognition of visitors or delegation participation. Johnson County Parents Coalition.
Waiting on you.
Sorry.
I don't have anything new. We're in our summer break, but we are doing a lot of behind the scenes working for our Backpacks Coalition and the other things we've got going on. And when we start back up, I'll have more for y'all.
Okay. Anything else there? Okay. Report of student board member Gavin Kerr.
Okay, so this is the July student report. Julie is unable to attend because she's at a FFA Washington Leadership Conference, but she should be back next month if nothing else comes up. Those are some pictures from just some of our students at Johnson County High School. And the volleyball team had a very really good turnout for their youth camp. I think that's what that is. And they'll have a scrimmage on July 18th against Sullivan East at 10 a.m. and we wish them good luck. The FFA training camp down in Doyle, Tennessee is this week, and the FFA will continue to have their Friday work days every Friday from 8 to 12, and they'll also be at the Sunflower Festival, so come say hi to them. The band will be having a hair benefit for grades K through 12 on July 25th and 26th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And every donation will go towards the middle and high school band members. And we would like to recognize Emma Liffam for doing an outstanding job as a 2025 June Dairy Chair. We'd also like to give a huge congratulations to the horse judging team who placed 6th in the state. Team members included Trinity Johnson, Emma Liffam, and McLeah Johnson. Great job to them. The Johnson County High School cheerleaders will be facilitating a youth cheer camp for 1st through 8th grade. This will take place July 23rd and 25th from 12 to 4 p.m. And the cheerleaders will also have a concession stand at the Sunflower Festival. So come say hi to them, get a snack. The important dates for this next month: the freshman kickoff, July 30th, and the first day of school, August 4th. And thank you.
All right. Good job. Thank you. All right. Approval of the agenda, item number 6. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda.
I have a motion and I need a second.
I'll second.
And a second. Have any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Griever?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
And Mr. Long?
Yes. On the consent agenda, is there anything on there that we need to pull off and look at separately? I got a question. Contract, Washington County, Virginia.
Yes.
Board of Education, Johnson County Board of Education. Do we know the number of students?
It was 12 at the end of the last school year.
12. All of those from Sutherland.
Yes.
Yep,
It's not many from Green Cove anymore.
I think Sutherland is pretty much
The
it.
biggest. Are they mostly elementary or some high school?
It's fairly evenly
I want to say it
spread
was
out.
4 high school,
2
4
middle.
Yeah, it's pretty even, yeah.
Okay. Hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
In a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Griever?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
And Mr. Long?
Yes. Item number 8, approve annual agenda 2025-26.
This is just something you all approve every year. This is just the annual agenda of things that the board takes action on each month, and it's not changed in years.
Same as always.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion? We got a motion, but that's part of TSBA.
It is.
We got a motion done on him, Ms. Brown. Here a second,
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Griever?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes. Number 9, 5-year plan update.
Just your update for this month is to provide teachers with training to ensure that one-to-one devices are integrated into daily classroom instruction, and we've had several PD opportunities this summer for teachers and for assistants dealing with this, and I've been to a few, they've been wonderful. So just an update on that.
Okay, item number 10, FRC report for the 24-25 school year.
And Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we're gonna do 10 and 11 together. Angie's just gonna present the FRC report, and then it goes right into the bullying report. This is a requirement that we do this every year and provide this information to the board. If it's okay, if we just, you don't have to approve them, we just have to provide
Okay,
information.
that's fine with me if it's fine with the rest of the board.
I think she has them on one PowerPoint together.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll start with the 24-25 bullying harassment report, and I can email this presentation out to you all so that you can look at it more in depth. But last year we had 8 incidents that were actually investigated. I went ahead and put the prior year beside it so that you could see. The prior year there was 12. So our numbers were down a little bit, but you do have to remember that we were out of school for 60 some days. So Josie will tell us the exact number, but out of those 8 that were investigated, 3 were found to be true instances of bullying. Out of all of those, there was misbehavior, so they all received punishment, but it's just, bullying has to be repetitive, it has to be targeted, and so there are guidelines, so, there's a lot of misbehavior. So we don't take that lightly, but it's just whether it truly meets that definition of bullying. We did have 2 instances where the parents did not even want to file the paperwork, but the principal did feel like that it was an instance of bullying, and they chose to go ahead and request that investigation to happen, and of course we did. So, but that's just, there's 2 pages of data there. So again, there were 3 found to be true bullying. They all were punished. That's number 8. So do you have any questions about that?
I do.
Okay.
So I remember last year when we were hearing the numbers as far as, hearing that there were 12 instances last year. That seemed extremely low based upon what I have been told. And since then I have learned that for a report of bullying to actually be part of this, the parent has to fill out the bullying form.
Unless, like I said, an administrator, if they're made aware of a situation and they truly feel that is bullying, they will do that. If it's brought to their attention.
So
know.
for a parent to do that, they would just say to the administrator, I would like to fill this out?
They always ask.
Okay.
So, you know, they ask the parents, like if it's an incident and that they've contacted the parents to let them know what's going on, and the parent says, well, I feel like my child's being bullied, then they always say, then we are happy to investigate that. And they give them that paperwork and, you know, ask them to return that. Now, if most of the time they know whether it probably truly is an instance of bullying or just misbehavior, again, that most of the time there is punishment for misbehavior. But, you know, if the parents choose not to fill that out, if they feel like it is a serious issue, then they will do it themselves.
And kind of like what you said a minute ago, as far as bullying is just a systemic, repetitive act
Yes.
over and over and over.
It's targeted, yes, it's not just Tina, you know, telling me that I look ugly, you know, and that she hates my outfit one day, you know, that's not bullying. Is it nice? No.
Right,
Is
so
it-
Tina goes by and slaps your cup off your desk one day,
One
that's not
day.
bullying.
That's
If
not
every
bullying.
single day you're there, she walks by and slaps it off
Then
your
that's
desk.
something that, yes,
She's
that we need to
created a pattern.
investigate. Right, yeah.
And then once they do fill that out, that sets a whole chain of dominoes
Yes.
falling as far as how it's investigated.
Exactly, and I gave you that, like the reporting procedures, that's what I handed you so that you would have that. And that's exactly what we go by, you know, and we follow that process to a T.
Now, bullying and cyberbullying is two different
So-
animals,
It all falls under this report.
same report. Okay.
Mhm. It does.
But now, as far as cyberbullying, as I understand it, if it happens outside of school hours, there's essentially nothing the district can do.
Unless it is disrupting the school day,
Okay,
yes. And just because, like, now, even though there's just 8 instances of bullying, there's many more students involved. Like, we had one at the middle school that we investigated that probably had 8 kids.
okay.
So has nothing to do with the number of kids.
It's
This has to
still
do
one.
the it's one
Number of
investigation.
incidents.
Like, we had to talk with all of those kids and do our due diligence there, but that's still one instance.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about that? But we do encourage parents to always reach out and let us know, and we'll be happy, you know, to investigate that.
Well, and that's what I've told them as far as I've said, have you filled out the bullying report? And you'll get various reasons why not, and I've encouraged them to do it, and I said, it's there for a purpose.
That's right.
And
Fill it out.
Angie has even offered, I will help you fill that out, 'cause,
Yes.
you know, it is a lot of paperwork, and, you know, we've said, we'll help you fill it out.
Yes, absolutely. Moving into the FRC report, the total number of students served this past year from the Family Resource Center was 1,008, and the number of families was 705. On that next slide, it has in-kind contributions, so we have to report to the state, like, how much money, or how much in-kind services, and they give us a formula that we use to calculate the amount of money that would be equal to. And so for this year, it was $6,950 in in-kind services. The next slide talks about grant funding, and so you can see on there that there was $2,694.74 from faith-based organizations that was actual funds that went into that account. There was $6,500 that came through foundations, and that's the East Tennessee Foundation. Keisha writes a grant for that each year, and she did receive that money, so that was the two amounts that totaled $9,194.74. The breakdown of the partnerships, there was 10 businesses that partnered with the Family Resource Center, 4 civic groups, 5 faith-based organizations, 1 foundation, 3 government agencies, and 7 nonprofits. And then this is kind of small, but it talks about referrals made to outside agencies. So that is referrals made to, like, the Action Coalition or DCS if they're needing, you know, SNAP services, things like that. So out of that, there was, I think it was on that first page. Well, no, I bet I actually took that off my PowerPoint when I was working on it, but I want to say that there was like 200 and some referrals made to outside agencies. The next slide is direct services provided by the FRC, and that was something, well over 700. And, well, you know, 700 for one family. Like, we didn't, like, if we served one family multiple areas, we just counted that one time. So, for example, the weekend food backpack program, we served 2,520 backpacks. So that might have been equivalent to 200 kids. Does that make sense? That they got multiple times. Okay. So basic necessities was 470 times. Case management 38. Direct services for chronically out of school, which is like truancy, board, juvenile court attendance programs. There were 32 services there. Clothing and shoes 326. Family literacy 158. Food, mobile food pantries and giveaways 361. Healthcare 3. Holiday assistance 196. Home visits 20. Housing 3. The pre-K in a bag backpack program was 588. School supplies 292. So Keisha really worked hard providing services, you know, to families last year. So just wanted to share that.
Is there something to show us? All right, thank you. Anybody got any questions? Okay. Item number 12, second and final reading of policy committee recommendations. Policy 6.200, attendance. Will allow parents to submit 3 parents' notes for excused absences. 2, in parentheses, 5 unexcused tardies dismissals will be treated as 1 excused absence. Policy 4.600, grading system. Change the grading scale to reflect a K through 12 policy. Policy 6.312, use of personal communication devices and electronic devices, and that's Senate Bill 897 and House Bill 932 requires that each school board have policy prohibit cell phones during instructional time.
And these are policies we went over last month during the first reading, and again, these were changes that have come to us via principal's recommendation, teacher recommendation. The last one on the cell phone policy, that's actually law now. So we just were a month ahead of the game because we'd already met about that. So we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
You have to take action on those 3.
Yes.
So I need a motion on those.
I've really gone back and forth on 6.200. I know I've talked with Mr. Osborne twice. I've talked with Dr. Simcox. I talked with a couple of the principals. My issues with it aren't the tardies as far as getting to school, but the early dismissal part has just felt off. But after talking with you, this boils down to you have to be early dismissed 25 times to get the 5 times to where you would be getting a letter.
Right, unless you had other attendance issues with, you know, regular old unexcused absences.
And if we also factor in the ability for the parents to write 3 notes, that can theoretically add another 15 times.
Correct.
So they could use one of those excuses for 5 tardies or early dismissals.
Correct. We would probably go in and put them in for any unexcused absences first, but yeah. And Dr. Simcox asked me and Jesse for some data on this, if I could share it really quick.
Please.
Because it was mentioned at the last meeting how big of an issue is tardies compared to the early dismissals. Some of the data was kind of hard to parse out, but I was able to get some numbers for you. Our total number of unexcused tardies and early dismissals was 9,539 last year.
You talking about countywide, or is this grade?
Countywide.
Okay.
Now granted, we have 1,500 students, so on average, every student had 6 tardies or early dismissals in the last school year. So that, you know, that sounds a little bit more reasonable. So our average student would
They're not gonna hit the 25.
They're not, it's not gonna be a problem for them. This is mainly targeted at those frequent flyers. And really, there's no such thing as the average student, because when we have one student that has 50 or 60, you know, that skews the average quite a bit as well. Of the ones that I was able to kind of parse through, 5,800 of them had notes with them, so I could tell whether they were tardies or early dismissals. 3,000 tardies, 2,800 early dismissals, so it was almost an even split on the ones I was able to figure out. And then that leaves another 3,400 that didn't have a note, so I couldn't tell whether they were a tardy or an early dismissal.
I went back and forth on it, but after talking with you all multiple times over the course of the week, I have no problem with the policy.
I should also say, there is a third change. I said this last time, but just to be clear for everybody. It's not on the agenda, but I believe it's in the paperwork that you all got, is that we're changing it to where we're not gonna accept reproductions of
Yeah,
an
you mentioned
excuse,
it last time.
digitally or otherwise, unless it comes straight from the doctor. A fax would be fine, straight from the doctor, in other words.
But that is in the policy change.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I need
I'll make the motion that we approve these policies.
we have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Have any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Greaver,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Long.
Yes. Okay, item number 13. And there's a lot of
Do you
it.
want me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. There is a lot of them. There always is in June and July. This is the first reading of the TSBA required policy changes due to the new state legislature and the laws. Policy 1.1021, student board member. Actually, we have done this for years, but now it is state policy. It just says state law requires boards to have a policy authorizing at least one high school student serve as a board member. So we have been doing that, but now we have to have a policy.
Cool.
Yeah. 1.407, school district records. State law removed the option to request a record request via fax. 2.403, surplus property sale. Federal regulations require certain actions to be taken when property valued at $10,000 or below is disposed of. The previous threshold was $5,000. Policy 3.204, threat assessment teams. State law requires reports to be made to parents and guardians within 48 hours of the district reporting to law enforcement regarding threats and significantly disruptive behavior. This law also requires a quarterly report of incidents provided at board meetings. And before I go on, I do want to say we had a great day, all the administrators yesterday, with Chris McCarty, and he went over all of these in detail with all the administrators, and I know that you will hear this same presentation from him and Ben next week, but he talked a lot about that, and there was a lot with that. We're going to be meeting with Officer Brown and our team, specifically middle school and high school, within the next few weeks about this. So just wanted to pause for a second and tell you that. Policy 4.100, instructional programs. State law requires boards to include the definition of anti-Semitism and anti-discrimination policies. Policy 5.500, discrimination and harassment of employees. State law requires boards to include the definition of anti-Semitism in anti-discrimination policies. Policy 6.304, student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation. State law requires boards to include the definition of anti-Semitism in anti-discrimination policies. Policy 4.212, virtual education program. State law permits districts' use of hybrid learning in the event of dangerous or extreme weather or in an emergency. 4.301, interscholastic athletics. State law requires students attending virtual schools to participate in interscholastic athletics in accordance with TSSAA guidelines. Policy 4.403, library materials. State law clarifies that materials may not be excluded from school libraries solely on the grounds that they are religious. Policy 4.406, use of the internet. State law requires districts to prevent students from accessing social media platforms on district-provided internet unless expressly authorized by a teacher for educational purposes. Policy 4.601, reporting student progress. State law requires that report cards for students in grades K through 8 must include a student's score on the most recently administered universal reading screener and the results of the dyslexia screener, if applicable. We're almost there. Policy 5.110, compensation guides and contracts. State law now permits boards to determine whether to compensate a teacher's estate or designated beneficiary for unused leave time. Policy 5.119, employment of retirees. State law made several changes that impact employing retirees. There must be a bona fide separation of service prior to reemployment for 60 days. There's no hardship or no waiver that can be filed anymore. Policy 5.305, family and medical leave. State law made several changes to paid parental leave statutes, which employees may use this type of leave and how the leave can be taken. 5.701, substitute teachers. State law changed the number of days a substitute can be the teacher of record without a teaching license. It changed it from 20 to 30 days. That's actually a really good policy. Policy 6.303, questioning students in searches. State law updated entire existing policy to state that searches of students must be carried out by a school resource officer, a school security officer, or a school administrator who has completed state-required training. The Department of Education will develop this training, and it has not been developed yet. Chris McCarty told us that yesterday. 6.411, student wellness. State law requires elementary students to receive 130 minutes of physical activity per week, which is 40 minutes every school day. This is separate from the PE law. And last, policy 6.600, student records. State law requires districts to provide a copy of a student's records to the new school within 5 business days. Any questions?
Well,
It's a lot, and you will hear about this next week.
what does the 40 minutes each day does do to our?
Angie, actually, they have been
Schedule.
working on that, because this is just for elementary.
So the day after we get in school, all the principals got together and we developed we were able to do 2 things. We developed a common planning time across the district for elementary grade level teachers, and we also worked on that schedule to fit in our required instructional time blocks, so that we would be able to have 40 minutes a day of recess.
It doesn't have to be 40 continuous minutes. You can,
It can be 30 and 10, it can be 20 and 20, it could be 35 and 5. I mean, it doesn't have to be continuous, but you do have to have 40 minutes a day.
Okay.
I'm all for physical activities for our kids, but this is doing a disservice to the students and the staff. And I'm well aware that on all this stuff state law requires, there's nothing we can do about it.
no.
But
There's something else. Oh, the interschool activities.
That's just saying, and we already do that now with homeschool kids. TSSAA allows homeschool kids to try out. Now this is saying, for example, Connections Academy, which is the virtual school that serves students, from Mount City to Memphis that we're a partner with. If there is students that live in Johnson County, then they can try out for a team. They can't live in Elizabeth and want to come to Johnson County and try out. They have to live in the area that they're zoned in.
Well, I thought that was already there.
It was for homeschool, they added it for virtual.
on 4212 with the virtual, as far as the 2 virtual days, or the 4 virtual days under the hybrid scenario, is that replacing the 2 virtual days
No.
per semester?
No.
So we'll still have, and with these 4 hybrid days, is that something the state has to approve eons in advance, or can you just shift into uh-oh?
You can shift into uh-oh.
Okay. So we'll have the 4 hybrid days, plus we still have our 2.
Yes. But we try
virtual
not to
semester.
do the hybrid days just because we know that doesn't, but we do have the option if we need to.
Okay. That was the other question.
Well, and last year was a prime example of you need all the options you've got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and last year they were very, I will be honest, they were very helpful for us. They were very lenient for us.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any question?
Yeah. On 4601, is that just talking about benchmark or as far as the universal reading screener?
Yes.
And then on the retirees with the 60-day separation thing, is that gonna hurt us as far as filling things with?
No, that's always been a policy in the past. You have to be, and Russell can talk a little bit more about this from the county side. But once you retire, you have to have 60-day separation. Now, in the past, if you had a hard-to-fill position, they would give you a waiver and allow you to go ahead and say, okay, we know we're not gonna fill this chemistry position. This chemistry teacher has said they will come back. They'll waive the 60 days if we need them to. They're not gonna do that anymore. You have to have a true bona fide 60-day separation.
Well, and I noticed in the new policy, there is actually a new section added, literally called hard to fill.
Yeah, yeah. But you can also, I mean, if you know it's hard to fill, and you can say to that person, you know, Mr. Griever, we would, if this position is open come August 15th, and that your 60 days are passed, would you be willing to come back? And if you said yes, you know, we would know we would have that option. We can do that, we just can't give them a contract until their 60 days are over.
So with the searches on 6303, administrators have to have a completed state-required training, which the state has not completed state-required training.
Yes.
So how do they go into the year to be able to search students?
Well, Chris was hoping he could have done that for everyone yesterday. He actually talked to Christy Ballard. Christy Ballard is legal counsel for the State Department. And she said, I would love for you to do that, but the way the law is written, it has to come from them. So they are developing it. So they need to be getting it done quickly.
Do our officers have that? You
I
have
would,
that?
that I don't know, because the administrators will get it from the Department of Ed. I don't know where SROs will get that from.
Yeah, so it's got in there that it says it must be carried out by a school resource officer, a school security officer, or a school administrator who has completed state-required training. But this is essentially gonna put the SROs and the security officers as being the only ones who can search somebody.
Until they
have
provide
to
this training.
Get the state-required training.
But I felt like from what Chris had talked to Christy, that it would be before school started. They know there's a push,
Okay.
that they have to get it out.
And then they get another video they get to watch.
And then they have another required training, yes.
Well, as long as somebody can. All right, anything else?
No, I'm good now.
All right, I'm glad you did that, thank you.
You're welcome. It's a lot.
Item number 14, approve a one-year security contract with GS Security Electronics in the amount of $13,320, installments of $1,110 monthly. Is this something new?
And this is, we do this every year.
Okay.
This is for our alarm and security system.
Fire monitoring mainly.
Fire monitoring.
Mainly.
Okay.
GSC security.
And they have done that for years.
Same guy?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Anybody else have any questions? Just put out on bid, bid on cost.
Yeah.
And this looks like the same cost it's been in the last 2 years. It did go up in 23,
No
about
increase.
16%.
Okay.
And he is great anytime there's
Yeah,
issues.
everybody I called said he does
He
fantastic.
does a good job.
Okay.
We have been able to save quite a bit of money over the last year with this system. He helped us transition over to cellular. Instead of paying, we were looking through phone bills and we're paying a lot of money in monthly phone bills. So we were able to transition over to cellular, and it saved, I can't remember how much, but probably close to, several $1,000s, probably half of this contract.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Your motion?
I make a motion we approve this one-year contract.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Got a second? Any other discussion? Call roll, please.
Miss Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Graver?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore?
Yes. Item number 15, approve one-year HVAC contract with Streets HVAC Service in the amount of $203,520 yearly installments, or yearly,
Monthly installments.
installments of, monthly installments, $16,960 monthly. $135 an hour in labor for Johnson County Schools, kitchen cooler and freezer units.
And he actually sent a log, I think to Leon yesterday, we sent that out to y'all this morning, just of the service calls that he had done during the 24-25 school year. Leon, do you have anything else?
Now, this is the same service provider that we've had in place since probably 2017, 2018. And there was an increase, if you noticed from last year. The previous 2 years, it had stayed the same price, with no increase. This year, there was an increase of about 6% on the yearly cost.
Has he always charged the $135 an hour for
Yes, and I pay those bills when he works on my equipment.
Does he get somebody else to do it? Does he subcontract that out?
He doesn't.
He doesn't? Okay.
And I believe that was sliding, was it $10 an hour increase? Was it 135 last year? At one point, it was 125. So there,
I'm just curious, because the guy before, that was included. I'm just
yeah,
curious.
that's one thing with streets. They do have the ability to service all of our equipment.
Well, Tim
Even though
did
it's
too,
a-
yeah.
You know, whether it's our water source heat pumps down here, geothermal, or refrigerant with the coolers and freezers, without having to go outside for that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I know both Mr. Henley and Mr. Adams have heard me several times. We really need to grow our own in this aspect. And I really would love to see us take a fruitful effort to start develop our own program to where eventually we can actually produce the students, put them through it, the coursework, the certifications, and bring them out and then be employable, as opposed to contracting this out.
And we actually met and have discussed that, and that is a goal of Leon
Because, I mean,
and myself.
I mean,
because we have so many kids.
$200,000 would go a long ways to help start, and I mean, and I understand that we would have to have the program running and this at the same time and phase this out as we were able to get qualified technicians out of the program. But I really, with
So you're talking about once the kids have graduated? Because I think you're looking at a potential disaster. You put those kids up
Oh,
on
yeah,
top of
you-
one of the schools.
you'd
in
have-
20
they'd have-
minutes.
We were talking like just filter changes.
Oh, okay.
Just
Yeah, filter changes.
Simple things that they could come in and do to learn, but no, not on top.
Yeah, but no, you're fantastic.
I mean,
Um,
with as much equipment as we have, and yes, I know we've got a lot of aged equipment, we have a lot of equipment that is very antiquated.
Isn't there, well, not to interrupt, but don't we have something that's gotta be changed out? A unit, big unit?
The biggest units that we've changed out this year have been on top of the kitchen and then on top of the bathing
We
room.
don't have anything that's coming up that needs to be changed.
I mean, we've got some units.
Well, it just goes down, but I thought there was one that's aging out that may not be. I guess what I'm
Actually,
saying.
any of it that's on the hill is probably,
They're all right.
it's all aged
There's
out.
one that goes to
Yeah, and Leon's gonna talk about
the
that.
office,
Maybe it's.
but it's not like it's on the roof, but it's not like a 20-ton unit or anything.
So like when I look at this contract, as far as if you break it down, 231 service calls. And of course, he broke it down for us as far as difficulty level. The high school is the worst by far. They had 69 of the service calls, then Rome Creek Middle School. But if you actually break it down based on the prior contract, it's $831 per service call, not counting filter changes. You can't get anybody to work on a heat pump at this point for that.
Well, he pays for the parts too, out of that.
So, I mean, that's, I think he's doing us a pretty solid job as far as what we're paying here, because looking back through some of the old minutes, I can't remember which year it was, but when Comfort had it, it was $260,000. So I mean, we're cheaper now, even with inflation rates and the cost of materials.
Well, I went back to 2010 and looked, and in 2010, it was 140. And that, you know, that was in 2010.
So I mean, in 15 years since, to only be, and I say only very loosely when we're talking about $63,000. But, I mean, and it's like, you know, he was saying as far as average age of the heat pumps in this thing are 21.4 years old.
I met with TVA today at the high school, and of course, I met with several people, but the high school applied for a TVA grant. They sent one of their engineers out today, and we looked at some of the units and stuff on top of the high school. I believe those units, there were 30, mid-30s, 35 to 37 units up there that were put on in 92, 93.
And still going.
Still going, but
Don't make them like they used to.
he was pretty shocked at some things he saw. But anyway.
Which it honestly is impressive they're still going, if we're being honest.
Um,
Well, I'm sure some of them are probably Frankenstein to make them.
Probably.
Yeah. Off topic, just briefly, the TVA, the last time Mountain City received our grant, we replaced some units there. There was a unit that the serial number called for late 70s. And they'd skipped over it initially because they thought it was just there and not in operation.
Decoration.
It was still, yeah, decoration, but it was still in operation.
Was it chiseled out in stone?
But, yeah, we do need to address those.
But I do think you're spot on as far as the grow your own programming.
I mean-
Like, if
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
else but just them replacing filters, he would probably come down on this, because filters aren't gonna be cheap either when you figure we've got 476 units.
And we have a lot of students going into that field, and TCAT's willing to do a dual partnership with us. So it is something we are definitely actively investigating.
Okay. Need a motion on that?
I would make a motion to approve a 1-year contract with Streets on our HVAC system.
Have a motion?
I'll second it.
Need a motion, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Graver?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
And Mr. Long?
Yes. Item 16, approve CTE Shop Bay Edition in the amount of $422,000 with Construction Partners LLC, using ISM funds.
And Mr. Adams is not here, he's on his way back from Pennsylvania, but I know that he's talked to each of you all, that if there's any questions you have, you know, I'll try to help answer them. I know, Russell, you
We
want to?
do have an issue because of the fact that we are now between budget cycles. And as of today, school systems and the counties operate on a continuing budget resolution. So therefore, we can approve this tonight, but we cannot act on it as far as sending a letter to proceed until we have an approved budget from the state, which could be 30 to 45 days. And the budget has been submitted. So that's the only kicker here, is we approve it, but they cannot proceed with the work until we have an approved budget, and we actually come off of that since this is a capital improvement.
Will, do these folks understand that?
I don't know if they understand that or not. Typically,
They
these
do.
bids are good for at least 30 to 45 to 60 days, so it shouldn't be a problem. But, I mean, they just cannot start the work because it's capital improvement until we have an approved budget.
And we'll make sure, we'll call Tom and make sure.
I would hope they would be okay with that, considering they're currently doing 2 huge projects up here, so.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Adams said that 82,000 of this was to upgrade the sprinkler and fire alarm system?
Yes,
Yeah.
in adding this addition on, they have to bring the whole building up to code. So it is adding that to it. And this is all from grant money. This is all coming from his ISM grant.
So this money, this ISM, or these ISM funds we're using, this is what we had originally approved to allocate toward meat processing.
Yes.
And then when the county got the other grant, that came back into the pot.
Yes.
That we can now
That's
use
it.
for this.
That's
That works
it.
out
That's
really
that
well.
500,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trouble with. Stephen, looking at the vocational building, we put one building on the right-hand side. This building is going to be on the left-hand side.
It'll sort of mirror the diesel building on the back.
On the agriculture
So it'll
side.
come to the front, yeah.
Okay. Okay. You hear a motion? So I'm assuming we'll just go ahead and approve it.
We can approve it. Let's do, I'll make the motion that we approve it with the understanding that it is basically on hold until we have that approval from the state to give the notice to proceed, which should be within 30 days.
That's fine with me. We have a motion to approve with that statement behind it.
And I will second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
We are gonna reach out to construction partners and explain to them what's going
Yes.
on.
I will call her.
The architect will take care of that, so.
Okay.
We'll call her.
Any other discussion? Call roll, please.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Graver,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Long.
Yes. All right, item 17, approve sale of list of items.
And this is just something that you all do at the end of every year. This is items from vehicles.
Vehicle items?
Yeah.
Pair of 95s and 08, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
95, two 95s and the 98, or 08, no, I'm sorry. Service truck.
Okay, any questions on that?
And then I clarified, y'all just list them on
Yep.
GovX or GovDeals.
Yeah.
You have deals?
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve this list of items and declare them surplus to be sold.
You have a motion? You have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Graver,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes. Item 18, discussion of live streaming of work sessions.
This was just something, since we have a new board now, just wanted to see if the live streaming of work sessions, there's sometimes work sessions we cannot live stream if they're closed due to, safety, student information. But a few months ago, the board had said they wanted to live stream all of the work sessions. And since we have a new board, we just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
It's up to the board. I go ready
We
away.
just wanted to know.
Right,
Do you mind if I say something?
go right ahead.
I just feel like that I would not be, this has bothered me for quite some time, and I know that this board, is a new board and everybody has been great, but there's been a lot of discussion that has come back over the past year based on a lot of things that's happened with students, and the National Crisis Center has been, working with us. And one of the things that continues to come up is the fact that this is really negatively impacting our students and our staff and just our community in general. And that was one of the things when they were here first of April that came up again. And Dr. Nelson, he has said that he would be happy to talk to our board about the things that he has heard and the feedback that he's gotten. And again, it's nothing to me, but I just, as a person that cares about kids, I would not feel good if I did not share that.
Okay.
You all know my thoughts on this, as far as I do believe in keeping the public as well informed as you can. Always have and always will. And we do have a new board, and to borrow a phrase from my grandmother, as long as we act like we're somebody, everything should be fine. But I do believe in keeping the public informed. And yes, I'm well aware they can show up here just like anybody else can. But as long as we as long as we behave like we should and have civil discussions and follow parliamentary procedure, I think we should continue doing it.
The work sessions,
No, the live stream.
the live stream for the
Live stream.
Just for the work
for the
session.
work sessions.
Which, of course, anything that's dealing with security or confidential matters, we obviously are not doing.
I mean, the world that we live in today, this is a means and a mode to get information out. And I have no problem in streaming a live meeting, but the intent of the way I look at it from the way state law's written, the intent of a work session was to be, yes, it's still a formal meeting, it's still open to the public unless it meets that criteria for it to be closed, but it's to be a more informal type setting to allow and stimulate, discussion among us as well as staff. And I think that camera sometimes stifles that discussion because in the back of our minds it sticks, how will this be used against me later? Or how would it be misconstrued in some fact? And, and I'm all for the public being involved as much as they can in it, but, it's still a public meeting, they still have a right to come to it. But I think that if the work sessions are not live streamed, we're going to be able to get more productive dialogue between the five of us as well as staff. I mean, case in point, we live streamed the budget work session, and there were some things in there that we could not disclose because, one, it was being live streamed, and the fact that the county's budget committee had not yet seen the data as well. And,
So nothing that you were hiding.
We're not
that
hiding
they
anything.
that they need to see
Contrary to
first.
what some people think, we're not hiding anything. We're more transparent today than what we were 5 years ago.
Because if they had watched that, they would have prior knowledge to, and it could influence their decision
Right.
based
That's
on what they
Right.
receive. That's fair.
And I mean, so, I'm off, I have no problem with the board meetings being streamed.
No.
But I do think that the work sessions need to be an offline type instrument, still open to the public unless we have to close it based on that criteria, that allows us to have more, it provides a better setting for us to be able to talk about things that are still public record, public knowledge, but again, it doesn't create that influence and all that other stuff that goes with it.
Before live stream, warn it. No,
That's a long work
I'm
day.
gonna have to apologize.
You came straight from work.
Came straight from work, right here. That's the reason I'm dressed like I am. And I had to eat just a little bit before I started. Weren't we being recorded anyway
She would record for the minute purposes,
for the work session?
for the work session.
Yeah, I mean, it's still
It's still
recorded.
Still
recorded.
recorded.
It just was not.
It just wasn't live stream.
It just wasn't live stream.
So we had a record,
Yes.
recorded record
Yes.
that we kept.
And which becomes part of the public record, that the public,
Yeah, it's always a
if you
public
meet the
record.
criteria under the Tennessee Open Records Act, can receive a copy of that audio to listen to.
So someone can request a copy of a work session with a FOIA?
As long as it doesn't meet
Have-
Fall in
Follow
security.
the safety
Probably
or
the
student.
confidential
Yes.
matters, student.
Yes, they
I
can.
mean, as long as they can meet the criteria under the Tennessee Open Records Act, then yes, they can.
Yeah.
And I think the Board of Education would have a right to make a charge, a small fee, $5 or $10 to put that on a flash drive. I mean, the county, I know from the county standpoint, we will charge a $5 to $10 fee because we will provide the thumb drive that has that on it, because we won't accept an outside thumb drive because you don't want to corrupt your system.
Right, you don't know what's, yeah. Y'all do the same thing.
Same thing.
Everything's recorded.
Everything's recorded.
Then this is just a discussion.
Yes, it's just, I guess, how you want us to proceed.
Uh,
Just put discussion.
What do you think?
I agree with Mr. Robinson, actually. I mean, I feel like you would get more out of
Productive
everybody.
dialogue.
I mean, that's the reason.
That's a reason to have the
for
work
a work
session.
session. Which I'm not a fan of it either, so. We're not scheduled for one. For a while. So it's, whatever you think. Of course, this is just a discussion, we can talk amongst ourselves later on, we don't have to vote on it.
Well, I think at some point we will have to take official action since there was an action to actually stream it. I think the board will need to rescind that action. No, we don't have to do it tonight. I mean,
Right.
it can wait. We
Right.
can go on next month's
We can,
agenda.
we can.
Because we did vote it in place, so we
Right.
don't need to vote it
I
out.
guess
think it would need to be
We need,
rescinded.
yeah, we need to let Ed.
But, you know,
Let him
we
think about
need
it.
his input from that
Right.
as well. It's not
Yeah.
fair to make that decision to him not
Right.
here.
Okay, so just think about it, we'll talk about it.
So I think this needs to reappear next month to probably make it more of a motion, a agenda item that we can take action on.
Is everybody good with that? Any more discussion? Okay, Tina?
Okay, so you have a packet in front of you, and then you have the sheet that has the local option sales tax and property tax collections. And if you look at the top portion, the sales tax, you can see that the year ended with 252,843 more than last year. And what you have to remember that the funds that received in June are actually May dollars. So May dollars are collected, but they're the revenue that arrives in June. So the July will actually be the June. And then also taking a look at the bottom at property tax also came in above the amount that was collected last year. And then you have a summary financial statement in front of you. And if you look at that, it does not include revenue for June. That was just given to us today, and so we pulled those sales and property tax. But if you look, there's no revenue actually in June. So it is showing that we are only 85.3% of revenue collected in GP. And then if you flip to the second page, in expenditures, it was 95.8% that has been expended. Also, the actual amount was, for the month of June, was $6,007,229.95. We had payments to Pearson, and then we also paid 2 payrolls to certified, 4 payrolls to some of the non-certified. So we have a lot of payroll coming out in June, and then also the Pearson stuff.
And this number is not the final one anyway.
Yes, we are
will
still
probably-
accruing.
We'll probably still add a couple $100,000 to this based on accruals.
Yes, we're still accruing
So we can roll it.
payroll and purchases that were billed in June.
Well, until we see the whole ball back with the revenue and expense, that's just a question we can't answer yet, so.
And we do have a healthy fund balance.
And we do
We
have,
do.
we do have a healthy.
We do have a healthy fund balance.
Well, that's good.
This is a testament to the way things have been handled as far as being good stewards of money.
You know, and that helps, you know, do one-time projects like, you know.
Windows.
Like windows at Run Creek, you know, we did a parking lot for a little over $200,000. We bought another lot for parking and hopefully somewhere in the future, some development. And that, you know, that's use of fund balance, one-time use stuff. Where we get into trouble is if you use it to balance, or you start doing reoccurring costs from it, such as employee raises, those kind of things like that. That's where we can get into trouble.
Which is something in neighboring schools.
Bingo, tingo, bingo.
Huge issues with it.
We've got a neighborhood system that has huge issues with that.
Thank you, Tina. You got anything else? Any questions for Tina? Item 20, public comment. I don't think we have any. Director?
Before I share just a few things, I've asked Leon just to give you an update on the windows here, and then another opportunity that we're looking into to maybe help with some of the HVAC issues and some of the energy issues.
So the Wrong Creek windows, the invitation to bid has been sent out. I talked to Tom Shanks today, and he's received a lot of interest so far. I think he had 6 contractors reach out to him saying they were interested in at least coming to the pre-bid, which will be held next week, and then we should have bids in by the end of the month. Hopefully, be able to proceed with that. No. Did you say would windows be in before school started?
No.
No, because that'll be a process of you know, there'll be cut, the windows will have to be made, we'll have to order a
So
contract.
how would that work?
We'll have to schedule it over a fall break or over a Christmas break or some evenings, depending on who the contractor would be, depends on whether they can just work evenings till dark, or weekends or whatever to work around the school schedule, not interrupt the school day. But we've been talking over the last year or so, you know, we really need to address, our energy, initiatives more aggressively, being, HVAC and lighting in particularly. Windows do not provide as much return on your energy savings as such as lighting does. So, you know, we just want to be talking with the board over the next, you know, few months to see kind of how aggressively you all want us to pursue that. For instance, I've been in contact with several energy savings groups that have came in and done audits of the school's lighting and HVAC. And all of them tell us that if you're going to do an energy project, you need to look at lighting first, because you will save the most money with lighting. And then in turn, that savings from that money can be used towards other projects like HVAC. So for instance, we had one group come through
I
and,
said, I was sitting there looking, I'm not interrupting you. How many years ago did we go through a lighting? Went through with some group.
Morris was here.
Morris was here, because Lisa Mullins was the energy,
Yeah.
say, 15
15
years ago. We've done this one.
yeah, so for instance, today, like at the high school, I walked through with the CBA engineer, and we found some T12 bulbs still in service, and he's like, that's very rare that I see those in schools and such. We have been switching over to LEDs as needed. As the lights go out, they'll switch them over. But the research all shows within a few years, LED has improved so much, they can be replaced as well and gain energy back by replacing LEDs if it's been more than like 5 years. So if the board wants to bite off a huge chunk and say, hey, at the high school, we want to replace 35 or 40 HVAC units, it's going to be a significant amount of money. If you all want to do that and not look at lighting, you want us to look at lighting and both of those at the same time, we can do that. When I say a significant amount of money, just for instance, one group that looked at lighting and only replacing the high school HVAC, it was north of 1.75 million. When they looked at some of the other schools, they could look at that's not replacing any of the aging HVAC at any of our other schools. That was the high school's HVAC and lighting in all the schools. And I have that report. I'll be glad to let y'all look at it if you want to. The state does have a program called the Tennessee Energy Efficient Schools Initiative, and I can send that link to you if you'd like to look at it. It's basically a low-interest loan of 1.5% is what it's currently at. And this program is run by Scott Slusher, and they have a technical advisory committee that takes into account the project. They approve it. They have their own engineers. They have their own architects. They make sure that the project will work physically and energy savings. And before they will approve a project, they will guarantee you that the savings from your energy will pay for the payment on the loan. You can spread it out from all the way up to 15 years. The maximum amount of loan is $5 million. For instance, when I looked here.
How far would $5 million go?
How far would the $5 million go? That would come to depend on, one, your contractor that you chose, because when you put bids out, things come in a lot differently. But in my opinion, I think with $5 million, we could do.
Can we address most of these issues?
We would address a lot of them.
And I mean,
Not roofs. Though.
No. Roofs are a whole different animal.
Yeah, we're not talking about roofs.
No.
So just as of June 30th, They have given out 111 loans totaling $170 million. And it says over the 47 loans that have been paid back in full using this program, there have been no defaults in those loans to date, meaning that they have been able to prove their savings. And this, I don't know where our fund balance lies, and as far as, if it's drawn, what kind of interest is drawing, but it would make sense to me if it's drawing more than 1.5%. You would probably look at an option such as this, because you would still be making money on the money you have in the bank. That loan is given to the county, though. So the county commission and those folks would need to approve it.
Well, I mean, we do not have the authority under state law to borrow money. The county legislative body does.
And I'll send you the link to this program. You can look at it, digest it. If you have any questions, I've talked with the director of the program. He's now the executive director, Scott Slusher. Dr. Simcox knows him. He comes to some of the TOS meetings as well. We could potentially even have him come to Johnson County. We could have him do a stream-in session and kind of explain that process more, if you would be interested in that. Or if you just would like for us to do more projects and handle those internally and spend money from our fund balance or whatever, we'll be glad to take a look at either direction.
That's something we can have a work session on.
That's something.
So with what you're saying, with that program, they'll go up to $5 million. We don't have to dip into fund balance to do it, because we'll just simply have a payment at 1.5% interest. And they are borderline guaranteeing that what we save as far as energy expenditures will be enough to pay the payment.
Yes. But they won't let you continue, like, we'll say $5 million. If they say you only have $2 million worth of projects, that's gonna pay for itself.
Can you find $5 million worth of project?
I think we
I
could.
think we can.
Get pretty close. But,
Could you
I
swap
just-
this entire school system's HVAC systems out for $5 million?
I don't know about here, at Roan Creek with
With the geothermal.
This is a different animal down here.
If you
Oh,
take
yeah,
them
it's
out
got
of
that.
it, yeah.
So
It's
pretending Roan Creek
special.
doesn't exist in that regard, can you swap the other 5 schools out for
I
$5
think
million?
so, yes.
Here's my thing. My opinion is, I lean more toward this state program. Because one, I was here when we went through the last energy program. And the only person who walked away with something that was beneficial was the company doing it. It was not, I'm sorry that they come in here and they do a big song and dance. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that walk out with the most money in their pocket. And I don't think we need to go that route again. I know it's borrowing money, we have to get the commission to approve it, but I'm, pretty confident the commission is going to, as long as we can show that we're going to make the payments, they're just going to be the guarantor. I don't think we'll have trouble trying to get this approved with them.
Well, the ESI staff, they oversee the execution of the projects to make sure that the costs are reasonable, and they make sure that it's going to work before they will approve it anyway.
I mean, I really think this is the route we need to go. We're going to get more bang for our buck
Agreed.
here. And then that takes that factor out that you've got this for-profit company out here at some point. It's like when you go to Vegas, if you pull that handle, well, you don't pull the handle, you push a button now on that slot machine. The house always wins.
Yeah.
You may win a little bit, but the house always wins. Same thing with the energy savings. The outside company, they always win. They're the ones who will walk out with the most money in their pocket.
You're still going to be dealing with outside energy companies.
But
they
again,
will have some oversight from the state.
but we have the oversight from the state.
They're in it to make a profit.
Well, I mean, that's the name of the game. They're not, if they can't make the profit, they're not going to be here, and I understand that. But I think we'll get more bang for our buck through this savings program, and the fact that we've got a third party that's overseeing what's going on, as opposed to us trying to do it on our own.
We will definitely
I
get something set
I
up.
can really get us some more information. And this is truly, when we need to have a work session where we can talk about it a little bit more.
Because everything there sounds great. And it lets us keep our fund balance for a disaster scenario.
Yep.
we can afford the payment, we're saving enough money theoretically to be able to pay the payment, and we get to really make a move as far as upgrading our facilities. I mean, it seems like a win-win.
We will proceed with that.
Sounds good to me.
Something else that we wanted to share is, I know you've been seeing the Department of Education at the national level with federal dollars, how they've sort of stopped all the federal dollars. So Angie just wanted to give you an update on that. I do have one program that I oversee, that's 21st Century, that is federally funded. LEAPS, which is, Angie oversees it at Doe and Rome Creek. It's funded by the state, so it's not impacted, but I fund all the before and after school at Mountain City, the high school, the middle school, and I've incorporated Laurel last year. So right now that's on hold, which, you know, I did talk to her yesterday. She feels like that we might still get that, but there's no guarantee. And, you know, I pray that we get it, because that's just so beneficial for so many of our students to do before and after school. But Angie wanted to share about the title programs, because that's where it's going to really impact the school system.
So, Title II, Title III, and Title IV is on hold, and just to give you a little bit about kind of how much money is there and what those things pay for. Title II has about $145,000 in it. That pays for a coach position at the middle school, and it also pays for all of our PD, all conferences that we send teachers to, and things like that. Title III is only about $9,700, and that's for ELL funds. That just provides some instructional supplies and materials. It pays for Dr. Diggs to attend some required conferences and things like that. Title IV, it has about $87,000 in it. It pays for a nurse. And the way that program works, if you spend more than $30,000 in a cap of that money, you then have to spend 20% on technology, 20% on safety, 20% on health. So we always keep that, we keep under $30,000 in that fund to pay for a nurse. And then we transfer that either to Title I, Title II, or Title V to pay for PD, technology, you know, or supplies and materials. This year, I transferred $48,000 to Title I, and that was to be able to balance Title I with the raises that we gave. So that potentially, even though Title I is not being impacted right now, because I transferred that money from Title IV to Title I, it will impact Title I. So I don't know. We've literally received nothing since we got the email last week that those funds are froze. But I just wanted you to kind of know what positions it would potentially be 3 positions that's impacted by this.
Do we know anything about IDA and preschool?
Right now, those have been funded, and they've been funded at the same level that they were last year. So was Title I. So when this all came down, Title I, they did not, it's not being impacted at this point in IDEA, but the other programs definitely have been. And for whatever reason, Title V has not been, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's just those 3 plus the 21st Century.
So we potentially have 3 people who may not have the funding for the job next year. Can we fund that out of fund balance?
That's a board decision.
And that would be up to you all, because that would be switching it to.
It's one thing when you're doing budgeting, as far as you're building a budget and cutting people or removing positions. But these people are working on the fact that they knew they had a job based on budget.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Fed wants to screw that up, I'm of the opinion it's our job to fix it, if even for a year.
And we could do it for a year, and then, you know, next year, if we see this is still an issue, they wouldn't, these folks are tenured folks, so they would not lose their position, they would just be.
We would have the last people hired that would be.
So someone who's
going
potentially not
into that.
tenured would be the one.
Exactly.
Or if we have retirees and those people were endorsed in that area, they can step into that area. But for a year, we could.
If
the
even
board would
just
have to approve it.
for a year, I really think we need to make that right.
And I agree. I mean, and that's a good use of fund balance.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly. That is a good use.
That is a great use of fund. That's a big prime example of a good use of fund balance.
But
Because
hopefully I'll know a little bit more next announcement, we do have the Federal Programs Conference. They're having it in Memphis this year, which is real convenient. I wasn't gonna go, but all this is happening on
Yeah.
virtually, so.
And I do think that over time, the Fed will get themselves situated, because right now, they're just still kind of,
Grasping at straws.
yeah, grasping and lashing out at various things, and I do think that they will get it figured out. Boy, what a time for that to hit.
We just,
Not before school starts.
we just wanted to share what we knew, which is not very much. I did want to give you a copy of, we do have a lot, I don't think people realize, a lot of required trainings that legislators require teachers, assistants, bus drivers to do every single year. It's not that Johnson County Schools says you all have to do all these trainings. This is required by state, and when you look at this, I mean, it's hours and hours worth of stuff. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what our teachers and our employees and our assistants and our bus drivers are required to do by the state. It's
insane.
It is insane.
And I'll be real honest with you,
It even has your all's trainings in here.
I know.
It shows that what you all are required.
I was looking, at the email that Imogen had sent out, had all the links about everything that's just required. And I thought, you know what, as a board member, I need to sit here, and it's a daunting task. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Some of them take 2 hours. 2 of them
If you
takes
can
2
get,
hours.
some of them, you struggle to get it to load.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that so you can see what our employees are required by legislators to do. And you can find that on the Department of Education's website if anybody wants to, you just look
All
up
those unfunded
required training, all those unfunded mandates. I do want to say a quick thank you to Angie and her Rum Creek staff for hosting us. We appreciate it and
All sorts of
appreciate
goodies.
all the goodies and just spoiling us, and all the schools y'all have spoiled us. I think next month we are going to be in the boardroom, and then it'll be up
Possibly,
to
but,
you all
yeah.
as to what y'all want to go.
We may
from.
start again,
Yeah.
come back out again.
We really appreciate what you all gave us.
Is that a coach?
It's a go.
I love it.
I haven't tried, I pulled the thing up, let's just see what it.
Everybody get a go? No, everybody has something.
Oh, mine is on big.
What do you want? You have to.
Oh,
Oh, was that yours? You take me everywhere with you.
Roger Rabbit.
I'm gonna find
And
some way to set that go
just
button.
last thing I have is we are so excited to have our kids back. By the time we have the next board meeting, our kids will be in school. So it has flew by, but we're so excited to have them back on August the 4th, and we look forward to it, and just hope everyone's had a great summer and has a great 3 weeks off, because we're
And-
starting back.
And I missed it last year, but I strongly encourage us as board members, if we can, to attend the system-wide in-service. I think it's very beneficial that the staff sees us.
Yep. You should go.
31st at 10:30, isn't it?
And I will promise, this year, I will not look up and realize that I'm 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
And we started themes about 2 years ago, and I think the employees love it. I know central office, we love it because we get to see everybody dressed up and just, we enjoy it. Such a great time. But this year's theme is sports. So wear your favorite jersey, your favorite sports team attire. Some of our teachers get really, really into it. And we do, as a central office staff, we feed them lunch. So Herbie and Leon and I think Mark this year is jumping in to help. I think we're going to do a tailgating lunch and just have like tailgating food. So no hot dogs. No hot dogs. Herbie's got some surprises.
Okay. Holly, you have anything?
No.
Chad?
I'm just looking forward to us all working together to have a much better school year than we did last year.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful that this board, and the district, and the parents, and the students can all just work together as one unit.
Good.
Which is so mean. I love it.
And, I'm like Chad, this past year has been extremely taxing to our staff, kids, the communities, and even the fact that at one point we set up there as a fractured board. And I think we're on a positive track to move forward, because at the end of the day, our job here is to do what's best for the kids and the staff. And I think we have failed them in the past last year, a little over the last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing that they can, that they put some confidence back in us as a board, that we're gonna do what's right at the end of the day.
Just want to say thanks to Rome Creek and Angie and your staff for, there's some eats back there too, if y'all want to go back and help them get rid of that.
And we need to do a plug for the Sunflower Festival, especially
Sunflower
since the fact that the high school's hosting.
That's right, it's going to be up on the hill on our property.
So guess what? We're gonna have decent bathrooms and air conditioning to sit down and eat.
That's right, so. Come
And
up
their
on the
layout
hill.
looks
And
fantastic.
the layout is great.
It looks
The layout
fantastic.
is
Yeah,
fantastic.
come up on the hill and visit the booths and look at the layout and everything. But I do have one thing. I had a student, a middle school student, come to me and ask about ROTC. And I told him we'd looked at it before and that we would look at it again. So if those that are involved in looking at that would look at that, Mr. Hagan, or
And that is the future plan for one of the spaces in the armory. You know, that's something that was one of Harvey's goals, is to make a spot, so that is something, and we know our students, you know, that's something
Yeah.
we definitely think would be instrumental.
A lot of it's just the space limit.
It's the space limitation and then the state requirement, but we can do it.
I thought that's pretty cool for a middle school student to come up and ask me that. Have enough at church, come up and ask me that, so. Anything else, anything? It's good to have you out. Appreciate y'all coming. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
We're adjourned.